So I have a question, sir. Like we also have Madhav Reddy sir from Zero Budget Politics here on Messenger, and how we can. My question is, sir, how we can bring this zero budget politics from ground level to the permanent level? What are your views on zero budget politics, sir?
I will very briefly go into that because these are very complex subjects. You're asking essay questions. You know, every democracy has an evolution. Just because you have a beautiful constitution and you have the right to vote and the right to shout and protest, it doesn't mean that overnight it will become a great democracy. The great democracies, successful and mature democracies, took hundreds of years. Our problem is, while we have done well in some respects, we don't have the luxury of hundreds of years. Because the world is developing economically with extraordinary, breathless rapidity. During Industrial Revolution between 1760 and 1840, we call it a revolution, but you know, the growth rate in Britain at the time was 1 to 2%. It was still a revolution because in a stagnant agrarian economy for thousands of years, you have an industrial economy which is actually generating growth irrespective of the weather, which was a miracle. Today, if a government gives us 2% growth rate, next day we'll throw them in the dustbin of history. Even 5-6% is poor for a country like ours. There is very rapid economic growth and much more rapid technological transformation. So the problem of India is, how do you accelerate the democratic evolution? How do you make our democracy work better? We don't have the luxury of hundreds of years like Britain and America had. There we floundered. Actually, we made things worse. But there's no reason to despair. The reason why there is so much of expenditure, when I say zero budget, what you mean is ethical politics, no illegitimate money, no vote buying. Vote buying is obviously a most visible and extremely dangerous and sad manifestation. There's a by-election going on now in Telangana and in Huzurabad. Each of the candidates for an assembly constituency, the major candidates, they're expected to spend about 40 to 50 crores at least. Ridiculous. Anywhere in the world, it's ridiculous. Vote buying. Then, not only that, the freebies. The political parties are recklessly offering everything free. Poor people need help, but without doing what the government has to do to make our lives better. Good infrastructure, rule of law, education of quality, healthcare of quality, etc. If you merely give short-term swaps, it gives you some relief from suffering today. It doesn't make your life better tomorrow. Poverty is perpetuated. It's a disaster. Most governments in India are falling prey to that. And the third, as somebody said, divisions. We're fomenting divisions, caste, region. We're a very complex society, diverse society. So to get the vote, it's easy to fashion vote banks through mobilizing people on the basis of caste, religion, region, etc., making hate the other groups. There are reasons why these are happening. Political parties are not terrible creatures. They simply want power at any cost. If it's possible to get power through good means, they will do that. If they feel it's necessary to get power through bad means, they will adopt that also. So it's all about the incentives. There are three big answers to your question. As I said, there's no time to go into detail. They're very complex themes. The first is there must be a greater understanding for the people, the link between the vote I give and the consequences that follow. What happens to my life? Not Bharat Mata, not some grand issues, but simple, practical day-to-day issues. Let me give a simple example. I'm now in the 5th floor apartment of mine in this complex. Suppose in the elevator, the lift does not function. I'm not going to keep quiet. I give a monthly maintenance fee. And we all voted for somebody to manage all these affairs. We'll tell them, look, we put you together to take care of all these things. We're paying you monthly maintenance fee for all these things, the lift to be maintained properly, the watch and ward, the parking, then the electricity within the compound, the water supply, etc. And if the lift doesn't function, it's not a theoretical thing, it's not Bharat Mata thing. I know where my money is going. I know what I want for that money. I know whom I have elected. I know why I have elected. What I expect in return. So if he is not good enough, I'll replace him. Or I'll take responsibility as myself. I'll push the system. That happens only when there is great decentralization with accountability. We create a very centralized government system without accountability. The second big answer is rule of law. If those in power, they feel that they're the servants of the people, if they abuse power, they'll be punished for sure. Then they'll be restrained. In India, if you're in power, you are a monarch. You're elected through the vote, but ultimately you elected the Raja of the constituency or the state or the nation. You can do pretty much what you like. The law can do nothing to you. There's no accountability because there's no rule of law. Supposing you're a genuine rule of law, there again, it's a very complex thing in itself. But if you have actually effective rule of law, no matter how high and mighty you are, you can be held to account. Then power as property will be replaced by power as service. In sane societies, the best people very reluctantly join politics. You have to persuade them and pressurize them. In India, even the most third-rate fellow, the moment you give him an opportunity, he jumps at it because he thinks it's a personal virtue. It is a property. Because there's no rule of law, there's no accountability. The police and the law enforcement system, which should control you, is actually controlled by you once you're elected. Then everything else follows. The third thing is electoral system. In our electoral system, what we call the first past the post system, for our conditions, it's a disaster. We simply borrowed it from Britain because they had it. We didn't think through it carefully. There are alternatives where the incentives for the political party and the candidate, they change dramatically. They'll behave differently. They'll put up different kinds of candidates and they will reach out to the people in a different manner, not offering money. That will not help them. So change the electoral system to promote ethical politics. These three are at the heart of it. And of course, all this must go along with people's deeper understanding, better understanding of democracy. Now it's all a jamboree. It's a festival without any purpose, a sense of what is happening. Therefore, each time government changes, but nothing much changes in life. So we are all angry. And again, next election comes. Again, we vote with great fanfare. Again, the same disappointment. Next day onwards, they say, istifa de do. Vote and shout is not democracy. Democracy is much more.
Thank you very much, sir.